I don't know. No comment, no commitment, no targets, no traction. If you're running a small, medium-sized business, you know that pressure. You know that pressure of working hard, trying to bring money in, and yet at the end of the day, there's nothing left there for you. So today in this video, what we're going to look at is how to forecast the finances of your business, how to ensure that you're not flying blind and you finally take control of the business. Now, we're always chasing money. We're always, as I say, working hard and never feeling that we get the rewards that we deserve. We're being asked to plan for the next 3 or 6 months, and yet we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. The truth of the matter is that in my experience, most SME owners, small, medium-sized enterprise owners, don't forecast. They just don't forecast. They don't because they don't want to. They don't feel they have enough time. They don't think they have the skill set. They don't because it doesn't matter why. In other words, what they end up doing is they end up driving hard their business, but they end up driving like at night, but with no lights on. The result, highly predictable. Driving all over the place, a bit of a mess, the business crashes, collapses, you're out of a job. Let me give you an example of what I mean. A few weeks ago, I was talking to a client of mine and I told them that I'd prepared a business model for them. They were delighted. They looked at it and said, and this is their first reaction, it's very money-ish. So I said, well, what did you expect? They said, well, so I said, tell me, how much money do you want to make, actually bring home at the end of the month or the end of the year? I said, what does it matter? He said, how much money do you want to make? No comment, no commitment. So ironically, that same afternoon, I was talking to a gentleman who was pivoting out of the medical world where they'd been for 30 years and setting up something very different. And again, I asked the same question. Sophisticated gentleman, well-educated. How much money do you want to make? No comment. Can you imagine being a pilot of an airplane or a captain of a ship, and you've just taken off or whatever it is, and someone comes up to you and says, where are we going? And you say, I don't know. Guess what their reaction will be? Not too thrilled. So what I want to do is give you here 5 practical tips of how you can start to take control of things. And tip number 1, no, we're not starting with the cost side. We're going to start with the sales side. Tip number 1 is say, how much do you want to sell this month, next month, the month after? How much you want to sell in terms of hours or in terms of products or whatever it is that you're trying to sell. And then once you have those numbers, multiply that out by a price that you think you're going to sell for and put it obviously onto some kind of spreadsheet. Because that very simple formula of quantity times price is your target revenue figure. It's as simple as that. But the next tip goes to strengthen your point. Can you validate that sales volume? Now, if you are an established business, you've got history, you know what happened this time last year, how much you're likely to sell then in the coming month. If you don't have that history, well, don't exaggerate. If you want to sell 100 but feel you're only going to sell 50, write down 50. And then for next month, maybe write down 60. And if that number is still wrong, don't hesitate to change your predictive model, because the worst thing is just staying put. You are allowed to change things. It is the ideal way to a great forecasting model. Tip number 3 is get specific about your audience. Who do you want to sell to? Men, women, age group, location. What is particular about these people? What makes them tick? Because when you know who you want to sell to, then you know how to schedule maybe a Facebook campaign. Then you know how to target maybe some radio ads or ads in a newspaper. Then you know what you want to be doing. Because without those targets, you don't have any traction. No targets, no traction. Item number 4, validate your pricing. Now, I have a great story for you here. A lady comes up to me and says, Michael, I want to open a women-only gym in a certain neighborhood. I said, great, but how do you know that? I mean, this is complicated. How do you know there's a demand for it? No problem, Michael. I've spent the last month, she tells me, sitting in a ladies' hairdressing salon in that neighborhood, asking everyone who came in there between the hours of 9 and 5, I think she said to me, 5 very simple questions. Do you want the gym? At what price? What services, etc., etc. In other words, after a month, she had some very solid figures and how much people were prepared to pay for such a new service. And item number 5 is to bring all this together. Now, whether you use Google Sheets or whether you use Excel files or whether you use pen and paper, bring it all together. You now know how much you're going to make in sales. Those sales on their own are going to drive a certain amount of costs, usually what's called variable costs. You can easily write down or fairly readily write down your fixed costs. So you have some kind of initial cash flow model. I can tell you about 20 years ago, I developed my own cash flow model. I've given this to so many clients over the years. One of those clients ended up with an exit of X tens of millions of dollars. So it's very doable. It is very practical. What are we learning from all of this? What's your main takeaway? Anyone who tells you that forecasting is an issue to be of preciseness is talking nonsense. Forecasting is all about establishing clarity for your business. You're not going to get it 100% right. Nobody does. If you can get that 80 or even 90% closeness to the real numbers, you're doing really well, because that will help you make decisions on your business as you move forward. Now, if you found this video useful, I ask you to subscribe. In any event, we're going to be back here this time next week with another video showing you how, through the 172 group, you can learn to plan the finances of your business with deeper clarity. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.